Dear viewers, welcome to another session of our lecture series. Today we'll discuss an interesting topic which I hope will prove refreshing for your mind and soul. In the present world, it's usually difficult for most of us to start our day actually without having a cup of tea. Therefore, the topic which we have selected for today is Botany, Cultivation and Processing of Tea. Tea is believed to be the oldest known non-alcoholic beverage of the world. The tea was discovered by the Chinese king Shen Nong in 2737 BC. It's believed that once the king was sitting by a pot of boiling water when accidentally a few tea leaves fell into the pot. The alluring aroma gave him a stimulating effect. He then tried it as a drink and found the brew quite refreshing and invigorating. The king then ordered the plantation of tea bushes in the gardens of his palace. This custom soon spread to the other parts of the world. First of all, let's talk about the botany of the tea plant. Camellia sinensis, which is the botanical name for the tea plant, is an important member of the family Theaceae, and it's a low-growing evergreen shrub with a height of 0.6 to 1.5 meter. It can grow to a height of 10 to 15 meters in the wild. This plant has a profusely branched stem bearing light green, short-stalked and lanceolate leaves with serrate margins. The stem bears leaves which are arranged alternately and range in length from 5 to 30 centimeters and have an average width of about 4 centimeters. The mature leaves are smooth, leathery and bright green in color, while as the young leaves are pubescent or hairy. The tea plants bear white flowers which are borne in the leaf axils singly or in clusters of 2 or 4. The flowers are usually fragrant, 2.5 to 4 centimeters in diameter, with 4 to 6 petals and numerous stamens with yellow anthers. The fruit is a rounded, smooth capsule with 1 to 4 lobes and 1 to 6 seeds. Let's know the systematic position of the tea plant, which is Camellia sinensis. This plant belongs to the division Angiospermae, class Dicotyledons, order Thiales, family Theaceae, genus Camellia and species Sinensis. There are 2 important varieties of Camellia sinensis. These are Camellia sinensis variety Assamica and Camellia sinensis variety Sinensis. Let's know how this tea is cultivated. So far as the cultivation of tea is concerned, in wild, the tea plant can grow into a tree about 30 feet tall. But under cultivation, the plant is pruned and kept at a height of only 3 to 5 feet in order to make plucking easier and also to increase the yield. The tea plantations are generally known as the gardens. Tea plants generally grow in a wide range of climatic conditions and the quality of the final product is determined by a large number of factors such as temperature, rainfall, relative humidity, wind, soil conditions, particularly that at the time of plucking. Furthermore, the quality of tea is also affected by the type of leaves, direction of the slope, and also the altitude at which the tea gardens are located. Tea cultivation is carried out in two different ways. First is the seed-based cultivation. In this case, the seeds are sown in a nursery where the soil is rich in organic nutrients and has a black, loamy texture. The soil has also to be free of frost during the winter months. Once the seeds are sown, the whole seed bed is covered with a dense tuft of dried mosses which are sprinkled with water till the seeds sprout. Once the seedlings become 12 to 15 inches tall, they are considered fit for transplantation. Second type of cultivation is the cultivation through cuttings. Here, small cuttings about 15 to 20 inches tall are obtained from the mother bush and planted in a nursery in rows. It's essential to put about 5 to 7 inches of each cutting underneath. These cuttings form roots in about 6 months, and once they are about 9 to 12 months of age, they become ready for retransplantation in the fields. The climatic conditions and the soil requirements form an important aspect of the cultivation of tea plants. So, we will talk a little bit about the climate and soil required for tea cultivation. The tea plantation requires a moderately hot and humid climate. The climate not only influences the production of tea but also its quality. The climatic factors which influence the tea production are rainfall, temperature, humidity, day length, etc. An area is said to have a suitable climate for tea plantation if it receives a minimum rainfall of 45 to 50 inches. That's around 1140 to 1270 millimeters with a good degree of distribution. A temperature ranging between 13 to 32 degrees Celsius is considered to be conducive for growth of tea. Cool temperatures decrease the growth and productivity of tea, and similarly higher temperatures above 32 degrees Celsius are considered unfavorable for tea growth. A humid climate with high relative humidity favors the growth of tea plants. Day length also influences growth and dormancy in tea buds. Short day lengths below 11 hours for 6 weeks drive the tea plant into dormancy. Tea grows nicely on a highland, well-drained soil with an acidic pH in the range of 4.5 to 5.5 and an organic matter content of more than 2%. For cultivation of tea, an important aspect is the preparation of land. Flat terraces at distances of 8 feet are prepared on the slopes of hillsides. The prepared land is supplied with ashes, organic manure and NPK, that's nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium. The 1-year-old seedlings are then planted in single rows about 3 to 4 feet apart and then irrigated continuously till they establish themselves in the soil. Depending upon the climatic conditions, these plants are ready in about 2 to 3 years to produce the tea. For any type of tea cultivation, an important process is the pruning. Once the young tea plants establish themselves and reach a height of about 1 to 2 feet above the ground level, they are trimmed back or pruned to few inches off the ground in order to develop it into a dome-shaped or usually a flat-topped bush. The pruning of fully developed tea bushes is repeated after every 2 to 3 years, which helps in the formation of new shoots, making convenience in harvesting and further increase in the yield. However, the timing of pruning is dependent upon the rainfall and other climatic conditions of the soil. After pruning, what is important is the harvesting or plucking of tea. At the 5th year of plantation, the tea bushes become ready for plucking of leaves. The bushes are usually spread 100 to 150 meters sideways and the gaps are left to move through. Each bush remains productive for about 40 years. The process of harvesting fresh young shoots from mature tea bushes is called as plucking or picking. Tea harvesting is usually done by hand as the use of machines causes a lot of damage to the leaves. The plucking of tea is done in 2 ways. One, the fine plucking, and second, the coarse plucking. In fine plucking, only the bud and tender leaves, usually the second and third leaf, are picked up. This type of harvesting makes the good quality tea, which is usually lighter and sweeter in taste. In coarse plucking, also the bud is harvested, but picking includes more than 2 leaves. This type of harvesting provides tea of slightly lower quality, and this is usually done at a fast speed. The process of harvesting tea is an art and really demands a lot of skill. This task is usually performed by the women. Harvesting is carried out in the early morning, and women usually perform the plucking with their hands by twisting and breaking the tender buds and leaves and throwing handfuls of these young shoots into the specially designed carrier baskets resting on their backs. The harvesting process of tea depends upon the picking of young leaves called as flush, which means sprouting of new buds and leaves on a tea bush. The plant may usually flush 2 times in a single growing season. In some regions of the world where there is no cold and frost, tea plants can flush continuously throughout the year. The plucking is done periodically at an interval of 7 days. Once plucked, the collected leaves are transported immediately to the tea factory for further processing. About 2,000 to 3,000 leaves are required for the production of just 1 kilogram of tea, which gives us an idea about the huge amount of leaves that are needed to be plucked every day. So, after the cultivation and plucking or harvesting of tea, we now reach to the processing and manufacture of tea. manufacturing process of tea involves the various stages of transformation of the freshly plucked tea leaves into different types of teas which vary in size, color and aroma. It's a very laborious process and demands a lot of skill, control and understanding of the various physical and chemical processes occurring during the processing of tea. We will discuss the various steps involved in the processing of tea one by one. The first step in tea processing is the withering. It's a process which brings about physical and chemical changes in the plucked tender shoots and decreases the moisture content of leaves without drying them. Tea from the fields is taken to the manufacturing unit bearing withering sheds. These are the rows or racks with each shelf 12 inches apart and 3 to 4 inches wide and the roof about 6 inches wide. On these shelves 4 inches of tea leaves are spread where they are allowed to wither either with natural breeze or with electric fans for about 18 hours. Due to this, the moisture content of the leaves is brought down by 40% and the leaves become soft and flaccid. The tea leaves are then transferred to the second unit for further processing. Therefore, the second step involved in tea processing is called as rolling. The withered leaves are then subject to rolling, which can be done either mechanically by the orthodox roller or by more modern rotor vane or by CTC, that's the crushing, paring and curling machines, or it can be done simply by hand. The main aim of rolling is to rupture the cells. During this process, the leaf cell walls get ruptured and the leaves are twisted and rolled. The rolling machines contain a pressure cap which applies pressure on the leaf and a rolling table bearing battens and a cone at the center for twisting of the leaves. During the whole rolling process, the pressure is continuously applied and released till the desired twist and turn in the leaves is achieved. As a result of the pressure applied, the leaves release natural juices and enzymes which get adhered to the leaf surface, giving tea the necessary flavor and taste. The leaf juices get exposed to the oxygen in the air and initiate a biochemical reaction which is essential for the manufacture of tea. As a result of rolling, the green color of leaves is converted into a brown coppery color. The whole process of rolling is completed in about half an hour. After rolling, the leaves are subjected to roll breaking. In order to segregate the twisted leaves from the untwisted ones and also to minimize the heat buildup, the rolled leaves are passed over a roll breaker. The roll breaker consists of a sloping table having fine meshes which move backwards and forwards at a very high speed. These meshes allow only the twisted and rolled leaves to fall through into a container underneath, while as the unrolled larger leaves are retained on the table and then sent back into the rolling unit for further rolling. The cycle is repeated till all the leaves are fully rolled. After roll breaking, the fourth step, which is followed for tea processing, is called as fermenting. This is commonly known as the oxidation, and it forms the most important stage in the manufacture of black and oolong tea. Green tea is not submitted for oxidation or fermenting. This fermenting is a biochemical process that actually starts during the rolling itself. During this process, the finely twisted tea particles are allowed to oxide in a cool and humid atmosphere in specially designed fermenting rooms. Here, the tea leaves are loosely spread out in a layer 5 to 8 centimeters thick for 45 minutes to about 3 hours on fermenting beds usually made of cement, tiles or glass. The fermentation process is carried out at 80 to 90% humidity and the temperature is maintained at 70 to 80 degree Fahrenheit. The leaves undergo oxidation by exposing to the air at 25 degrees Celsius. On oxidation, the leaves change in color from greenish to coppery brown or eventually black and also acquire the specific aroma and flavor. The characteristic aroma and color of the final product is greatly affected by the temperature, extent or time duration of fermentation and proper air circulation. This process determines whether we have green, oolong or black tea. Therefore, it demands a lot of expertise for fermenting a particular type of tea. After fermenting, the tea leaves are subjected to the fifth stage, that is drying. This process is also known as firing. The fermented tea leaves are subjected to drying, the main aim of which is to stop the process of oxidation and slowly reduce the moisture content of leaves from 45 to 50% to just 2 to 3% without scorching them in order to produce a stable product with its characteristic aroma and color. For this process, the fermented leaves are passed through dryers which consist of circuits of perforated trays. The trays on which the leaves are spread move from top to bottom and hot air is continuously blown through the perforations till desired drying is achieved. The drying process takes about 20 minutes and the initial temperature is about 50 degrees Celsius and the final temperature around 105 degrees Celsius. The key to successful drying is the proper regulation of temperature and the speed at which the trays move. The sixth step in the process of manufacture of tea is the sorting. This is also known as grading or sifting and is the most important step so far as the market value of the final product is concerned. The dried teas are separated or sorted for grades of different sizes. For this purpose, the tea particles are passed through a series of revolving or vibrating screens of different wire mesh sizes. Tea particles range in size from that of a fleck of dust to a leaf around 4 cm long and 1 cm wide. Generally, 4 main sizes of tea leaves are obtained after sifting or sorting, namely whole leaf grades, brokens, fannings and dusts. The latter two, that is fannings and dusts, are usually used for tea bags. The seventh step of tea processing is the packing or dispatching. After grading, teas need to be immediately stored in airtight containers as they are very hygroscopic and absorb moisture very easily. Therefore, the different grades of tea are weighed and packed into plywood chests, multi-walled bags, paper-lined sacks and cartons, all lined with aluminium foil inside, and finally dispatched to the auctions or packed into tea packs of various forms for direct export or distribution, with each parcel bearing the details such as type of tea, grade of tea, weight, date of packaging, etc. The last step in tea processing is called as blending. Usually, different types of teas are blended together to form a uniform product. But this step may or may not be followed. After the processing of tea, we now get the different types of tea. All the types of tea come from the same plant, Camellia sinensis. In the present world, we come across thousands of varieties of tea, but the three most common varieties are China tea, India tea, and the hybrid tea. Most of our tea types are prepared from these three varieties only. Depending upon the procedure followed for processing the tea leaves, tea is classified into 6 basic types. These are black tea, oolong tea, green tea, white tea, brick tea, and leopard tea. Each tea type is characterized by its own taste, health benefits, and the content of caffeine. Dear viewers, with this we come to the end of today's lecture, wherein we talked in detail about the botany, cultivation practices, climate and soil requirements of the tea plant. Hope you liked this lecture well. Thank you.